All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, bringing you brand new interviews right here on YouTube. Now, how many people watching this video grew up as a fan of Kiss? I'd have to think maybe 75%. I mean, I feel like everybody, if you were a fan of rock and roll, were influenced or a fan of Kiss. And if you weren't, you're probably wrong. But the guitar player Ace Frehley, who has recently passed away, probably influenced every heavy metal guitar player to follow the entire glam hard rock uh, movement. Those guitar players influenced by Ace Frehley. Myself, I bought my first guitar because Johnny Ramone, because I said, if he could do it, I can do it. I learned that there was a lot more to it than just three chords. Well, I think a lot of people felt like that about Ace as well. And my guest today, like many, was a massive Kiss fan, and he dressed like Ace for Halloween. He played Ace in Kiss cover bands, but it wasn't until later in his life that he became the guitar player for Gene Simmons of Kiss, and also next Ace Frehley, an opportunity that doesn't happen to everybody. And I will say, sadly, he became Ace's last guitar player, shared the stage with him for the last time. Jeremy Asbrock is here. We're going to talk about his career. We're going to talk about his time with Ace Frehley and more right after this. All right, please welcome Jeremy Asbrock.
How you doing?
Hi, Jeremy, thank you for doing this. I want to talk a little bit about your career because you do have sort of every boy's rock guitar player's dream, performing with Gene and Ace from Kiss. Now, it's funny as I asked you, because I know you're based out of Nashville, but I asked you, I go, well, where are you from? Because I feel like everyone's moving to Nashville, but no, you're born and raised.
I have to say, other than like my childhood best friend, who's still kind of my best friend, none of my friends are from Nashville originally.
Yeah, it's become a transplant city, especially in this music business.
I don't hate it. It's fine. Like I said, my whole network of friends are from somewhere else, so I'm fine with it.
Did you know you wanted to be a musician from a young age?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I don't remember anything else really. It was I was turned on to Kiss at a very, very young age, and from the moment the needle hit the record, it was game on.
Does it make you an outcast in Nashville?
Well, not anymore. There was a time. I mean, there was always rock music here. It just kind of it wasn't really the thing, and it didn't really get a lot of attention either. And the stuff that did get attention in like the 80s was like, Jason and the Scorchers, and still had this, Americana, this twang element to it. But I grew up in Smyrna, which is outside of Nashville, and it didn't matter. I was in my own little world, so I wasn't really influenced by, the environment around me, other than my older brother and his friends all had Kiss posters on their walls, and I would see that. No, it was just kind of something I found on my own. It was mine.
When I was a kid, I grew up in New York City. I'm more of an 80s kid, but I grew up in the mid 70s, late 70s as well, born 74. Kiss to me was larger than life, but I didn't even know it was a band. And I think a lot of people have this story too. I knew the posters and I knew the dolls, and I knew that they were scary. I remember seeing a thing on Saturday Night Live where they had a sketch about Kiss, and I just was bigger than life to me. They were like monsters. And then when I found out they played music, it was a whole nother thing. But disco was still a thing. And at least in New York, there was Kiss and there was, disco and pop. And the two worlds were so completely different. Kiss ahead of its time, obviously.
Man, there were still like 45s that I had at the time. Like I had the Funky Town single.
Mhm.
I had Take a Chance on Me. I had some ABBA, from that era. Boogie Shoes by Casey and the Sunshine Band. So I don't know. It was all just music to me. I was too young to know this kind of rock from that kind of rock and cool from not cool. But man, the second I heard Shout It Out Loud on side 3 of Alive 2, God, it was just nothing. It was like the doors flung open, and here is your path, Jeremy.
Was Ace your favorite?
Oh yeah, Ace and Gene were my favorites. Like I was so young; it took a minute to know the difference between lead guitar and bass guitar. But
Mhm.
the guitar guys, and little boys are naturally going to gravitate a little towards Gene because he's like this scary monster guy. But I don't know, like Ace was so cool, and like his voice was different. Like when I finally heard "Shock Me," and because I was really used to Gene and Paul's voices by then, even Peter's. But it's like, oh man, his voice is so cool. He was just the cool one.
Mhm. No, I completely agree. You could take any two Kiss fans at any time, and they'll probably have the same exact Kiss conversation, we're having. And I grew up in New York. Ace was like the big myth because he used to come drink at the Irish bars in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And, the DeLorean crash wasn't too far from where I grew up. I was born in the Bronx. And same thing, always thought Ace, there's something so cool about Ace. Ace just didn't care. The Tom Snyder interview was amazing. Everything about him was the opposite of the corporate world that Kiss sort of became.
Yeah, without getting into anything specific, because I can't really, but dude, he was like that until the very end. Ace just did not give a fuck.
Yeah, we met on the road because Stephen Piercy and Ace were sharing the same agent, Sullivan Big at Big Time
Yes.
Entertainment, and that's how we had met. And I knew that, like myself, you were type 1 diabetic, and it is November. It's Diabetes Awareness Month, and so I wanted to talk to you just about that. I was I have mine under there too, and before we started, I asked you if you were comfortable talking about it. And you said the same as I feel, that you wear this as a badge of honor. We both considered hiding them, not showing the monitor.
It didn't make any sense to me anymore. I couldn't figure out why I was doing that, because I did have fans notice it and reach out to me, and I noticed they were encouraged by me being out there and touring and doing what I do and dealing with it. So I just decided that hiding it was ridiculous. I was going to start showing it off. So,
how old were you when you were diagnosed?
Man, I was 31, which is
Wow.
a very strange age to be diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was not overweight. I looked pretty much the same as I do now. I was just waking up in the middle of the night and extremely thirsty and, drinking a pitcher of water. And I thought I was dehydrated, so I was drinking Gatorade too, which was like trying to commit suicide. And then like waking up and peeing like fucking 4 or 5 times a night. And my roommate noticed all of it. And then one night I'm complaining about not being able to read the street signs, and it clicked for him. And he had a friend of his who was diabetic come over and check my blood sugar, and it was like 280. And then I drank about 8 ounces of apple juice, and then it was 390. And it's like, well, guess you better go to the hospital. And that was it. Like my life was completely different from that moment.
Jerry, my story is almost exactly yours. I was 40, and I did the same thing. I got the massive amounts of Gatorade, and I went to an eye doctor, and they said that I was legally, the hospital told me, you're legally blind, go to an eye doctor. And I went to the eye doctor. The eye doctor said, no one just goes legally blind. You have an internal problem. Go back and demand a blood test, urine test. The nurse took my blood, and she went, oh my God. and she left the room. And I go, that can't be good. And like most people, I was sort of hoping, well, maybe it's type 2 and I'll just get in better shape. I was also thin, and couldn't understand why I got this at a later stage in life. I'm glad that we talk about it, because for so many people, if you start to have these dehydration symptoms, it's time to go to the doctor. It's time to get a simple glucose test, a simple, easy.
Really, they're like $15 at Walgreens, $10 for some test strips. Yeah. Probably like you and many other people, I did not know a lot about diabetes before I was diabetic. Everybody knows it. Oh, it's that thing that Bret Michaels has.
Yep.
So it was really a great education on the human body for me. I mean, I learned things about the body that I would not know otherwise. I wound up being a pretty good cook as a result of it. I don't know if that would have happened. There's a lot of pros that came out of it. I mean, obviously, having a life-threatening disease, there's not a lot of pros about that, but
I feel
there
like
have been a lot of good things that have come out of me having it.
I feel like I live life a little fuller. I'll tell you that. I certainly don't have regrets. I do things that if I wasn't diabetic, I go, I could do that next year. There's something different now to me after being diagnosed and after realizing how hard it is. And people ask me constantly, is it hard to be on the road and be diabetic? And what do you say to
that? I say, yes, it is, but also it's my normal. So I don't really know any different.
Right.
I mean, I did get to tour a while before I was diagnosed. So, but I was also in my 20s then, and there's a lot of things I could do in my 20s that I can't do now.
Yeah, that as well. So add diabetes, and it makes traveling, because for people who don't know, you spend a lot of time in truck stops and hotels with shitty food and hoping to find what you can. And we're always trying to maintain blood sugar.
Yeah, and your rider's probably like mine. I need Gatorade Zero and I need regular Gatorade. And I need them for the same reason. If I'm too high, I need this zero. If my blood sugar's dipping, then I need the regular stuff. And I get a little disappointed when I get there and there's no diet drinks of any kind.
Mm-hmm. Our rider has the diet drinks and the zero Gatorades as well. And that, everyone around me sort of learns about diabetes from me being there. And I'm sure it's the same with people around you.
Yeah.
And I can say for me, I kids come up to me all the time and say, I'm happy that they show me their numbers.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. And it made me, because when I got diagnosed, I was kind of sad. I was a little embarrassed that I had this, and I just didn't want to talk about it. I go, let Bret Michaels be the poster child. I now talk to Bret Michaels about it on the road, and I'm glad that he's the poster person, because he motivates so many people that we don't have this death sentence, that we can live with this. And it's a bummer, but like you said, you make the most of it, and people around you, you become educated. Anyway, there's a lot of KISS fans watching going, holy shit, I just turned into the medical channel.
But there's some of them that are sitting around with diabetes going, oh, wow, I didn't know those guys had diabetes. It's like a club, when you find out, oh, you too, huh? Oh, man.
Oh, people show me theirs all the time.
Yeah.
I have to cover mine now only because I was pulling it out all the time, but that's the other one. But I've got this nice Christmas wrapping to cover this. But I kept knocking it out or changing my shirt, and it was pulling out. But yeah, I feel like it's a badge now. When I go places, I could be at Disney World or something, and I see somebody else who has one, and I feel like we're in this ridiculous club. And so anyway, I'm glad to talk about it, because there are people who relate, and then there's people who could go through this. It could happen at any time, and you get treatment and you find out what works for you. And And that's it. And then the people around you, the people around me have always wanted to be helpful, but you got to make sure they know. They're like, "Where's the needle?" I'm like, "No, no, no. If something happens to me, I don't need you to give me any needle."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But your loved ones also learn about it, and the people in your life, they become educated in this thing as well. So, but when I first saw you with Ace, I said, like, Jeremy's the diabetic, and it's because I knew from the thing, and I go, I want to talk to him, and then I'll talk about how we first spoke in a bit, but I want to sort of build up a little bit more to. So you get your first guitar. What was your first guitar?
It was just like a Sears model. There was no name on the headstock or anything. It was just black, super, super thin body, like a sunbursty type thing, real cheap.
Do you take lessons?
I did. I took them off and on between 8 years old and 14. I finally found a guitar teacher when I was about 11 or so. Yeah, about 11, who knew how to teach me what I wanted to learn. And then by the time I was 14, he's like, well, man, I don't really have anything left to teach you. You just need to put together a band and find your way. And that's what I did.
Yeah. So you start playing. Were you playing covers around Nashville to begin?
No, man, I went straight into like starting bands and writing songs. Like the cover band thing was like never part of my plan. I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to get a fucking record deal. I wanted to go on tour and be in my band.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a little bit how it went.
Well, it's always really hard to get started, isn't it? You get your guys together, you write some songs, and then you got to come up with a name. And I don't know, it went like everybody else's story, I guess. I did not get signed right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
I did wind up playing in some cover bands, but I did wind up playing with a band in town called the Shazam. They were my favorite band before I was even in the band. I was really into, the Beatles and, 60s British type stuff and Cheap Trick and shit like that. And that's exactly what they were. So I became like band best friend, roadie, head cheerleader. And then I was the engineer on the second record, and that music was just a little too hard for 3 people to replicate. So I became part of the band, and man, we did a lot of cool stuff. We got to do a TV radio broadcast from Abbey Road, higher billing than Duran Duran, and like, fuck, we couldn't get arrested here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, in 2000 we started out the year like the fucking smallest venue in London and finished the year at Earl's Court. It was like the shit dreams are made of, and then it was all over the next year.
Was it internal problems with the band, or what makes it end?
Oh, there was always high drama in that band.
Gotcha.
Always. That's probably the main thing that kept the band that kept the wave from ever breaking was high drama. I don't know. And then like Little Steven's show became big here in the States, and he started playing us, and then we got some traction here, and started doing the van thing here. I don't know, the wave just never broke. And sometimes that happens. You can have the greatest band in the world with the greatest album and the greatest songs and the greatest show, and sometimes the wave just does not break. Jellyfish, for instance. Like,
that's who I was thinking when you said it. That's usually the one that people go, how did this not reach? Every musician will tell you how amazing it is, but it just never broke.
Honestly, man, I was about to do a Jellyfish tribute show here in Nashville, and like with Ace's thing happening, we wound up having to squash it, but we still rehearsed it a lot and dove into the songs. And man, I totally get why they didn't make it now. It's just too smart. It's too good. It's too clever. The masses just can't latch on to something that sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's There definitely a lot going on, but if you talk to musicians, they will tell you. I know Eric Dover, and he's been on the show, and he was a member of Jellyfish at
Oh
times, and
yeah,
it is it's crazy. But yeah, it's there's a lot of luck in this business.
absolutely. I mean, just there's a lot involved with the wave breaking that goes beyond the band and the songs. Man, there's like the team. Sometimes people talk about the team, but let's face it, man. There's always an awesome team behind the breaking of a band.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you do after that band ends?
Uh, you just start playing in tribute bands for fun with your friend Phil Schaus.
Hmm.
And we had a tribute band for everybody, and that was basically how the rock and roll residency was started. Was we had just a deep well of catalogs of songs that we knew, and hey, let's do a weekly thing and have fun. And a weekly thing turned into 5 years.
It's a good run in this industry. I tell people who want to become cover musicians, or they want to work in Vegas, or they want to work in Nashville, you better learn as many songs as you can, and you better play hard every show, even at the one where you think there's three people there, because one of those three people might be someone who goes, you know what, I'm going to
Yeah.
recommend him to whoever, a gig. And it's changed though. The cover world has changed now that there's iPads on stage and stuff. It's a
Oh
little
yeah.
different. I'm not a fan of that. um
Also,
I
like
had
when we started doing it for fun, the tribute band and tribute show thing wasn't so big. It wasn't that much of a thing. I mean, there were little shows here and there, but it wasn't. I don't know. There's fucking tribute bands all over the place now, and it just kind of wasn't so prevalent back when the mid 2000s when we started doing it.
yeah, I put together a band in Las Vegas called the Sin City Sinners,
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
yeah, and Todd Kearns, as you know, he was the lead singer and guitar player. And look, I knew that somebody was going to take this guy. he was, he was. I said he was Canada's undiscovered. In America, they didn't know who he was. Canada, he was a big star. But so we got a few good years out of him, and we tried other people, including Eric Dover. But he was one of those guys who knew how to run a cover band. He knew how to keep it moving. He knew how to entertain a crowd. And as you know, Todd can play any song at any time you request it, or a Kiss song, or whatever it is. Good chance he knows it. And if not, he'll find a way to get through it. And so that cover world is definitely different now. I mean, like anything, when people figure out there's some money in it, suddenly everyone can do it. And maybe not everyone's the best at it. I don't knock anyone for trying.
Yeah, there's not a lot about my life I would change. I mean, everything worked out pretty good. I probably would be a little less snobby about covers
Hmm.
when I was younger than I would be, or than I wound up being. I'd probably tell me to lighten up a little bit and go play some fucking covers.
Hmm. It's better than a real job, I always say as well.
Yeah, but I mean, like back then, I mean, like in the '90s and early 2000s, I mean, like that's when the time was right for your band to like fucking do it.
Yeah, no, and if you don't believe in yourself, who will? So you have to sort of be behind your music. Okay, let's get to how does this kid from Nashville who grew up a Kiss fan get involved with Gene Simmons?
So Ryan Cook had an '80s metal cover band in Nashville called Big Rock Show, and Paul Taylor from Winger was also in this band.
Mhm.
Uh, Kiss were doing their first cruise, and Doc asked Ryan if he wanted to bring his cover band on the cruise, and their guitar player couldn't do it for whatever reason, and I got a referral from somebody. There's a dispute amongst the band about who gave me the referral, but needless to say, I got a referral from somebody, and that was like meeting my new family. It was so weird. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to play with these guys on this cruise. It was like my new best friends, my new family, the people I hung around with all the time. It was, and spent the next decade of my life with. We did the next 5 Kiss cruises, and when that 6th one rolled around, Gene was going to promote his vault thing and had a few solo shows tied into that. Gene asked Ryan to put together a band. I was, an obvious shoe-in for that one. And, it was only supposed to be like 6 shows, but we played that first one and the internet broke the next day. And yeah, shows just started getting added and added and added. And, he let us throw songs in the pile. And that's most of the reason we came out of the gate doing all that fucking really cool deep Kiss stuff. Gene was fun, man. He was game to do whatever.
That's what I've heard about Gene, that for the most part, he traveled sort of no frills. And
by himself with a tiny little suitcase. Yeah, no crew, no management. It was yeah, it was small.
He sort of, by trusting you guys who are Kiss fans, I think he ends up giving the Kiss fans what they want. He listened to people who know what they want. And as you said, that's where you get
pretty much
some deeper songs and things. Now, Gene's personality obviously going to be a lot different than Ace. I'm sure Gene's got some jokes here and there, but he's not going to have long talks about outer space with you.
Yeah, actually, he would have long talks about outer space.
Really?
Long talks. Yeah, Gene loved to hang out. We hung out before the shows and after the shows and had breakfast and dinner together. And yeah, he really just wanted to be one of the boys and make jokes and prank each other. And yeah, he was a fantastic hang.
Interesting. Yeah,
the only similarity between him and Ace is that they were in the same band, and it pretty much stops there.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you make that transition. Now, there's different versions of the story of how you ended up in the Ace band. Now, you go to Australia, right? That's what's going to happen. Ace and Gene are going to play on the same bill, and I think it's Gene's idea that maybe we save a little money. Imagine that. Use one band, right?
That was Ace asked Gene, and Gene said it was fine if we didn't care, he didn't care. So then Ace asked us.
Gotcha.
So no, Ace approached Gene about that.
Is the story true that at some point Gene told Ace, "You got to fire that band of yours"? Because I believe Ace has told that story, that Gene said, "You're better off with my band." He didn't like the guys in Ace's solo band at the time, and it led to some controversy amongst those members. I could see you're going to stay out of it for the most part, but it sounded like maybe Gene wanted to keep his solo band working in case he needed them again, which is good business, and I think he also believed in you guys. I think he thought you guys were the right thing for Ace. He thought that, I don't want to say what he said about each individual person, but he didn't think that they were a good fit for Ace. And I think Ace was trying to stay in Gene's good graces at the time as well. And there's an amazing, it's online interview. Scott Coogan, who was Ace's last drummer, was with Ace for ages, played with Stephen Pearcy, a friend of mine as well. But Ace tells the story about Coogan having to fire Scott Coogan, and I'm sure you've seen it. And he's upset, and he told me, "I'm your rock star, Ace. You can't fire me. I'm your rock star." It's incredible, but I'm glad that Scott made his way back.
I am too. I'm glad we got to wrap all that up with Scott there. I mean, obviously that whole transition was, awkward as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But without going into too much detail of your assessment there, I will say that that is a pretty fair assessment that you have of everything.
Yeah.
We were already scheduled to go to Japan from Australia with Ace. Like that was already kind of part of the deal. But he didn't ask us to be in his band until that Japan trip.
More importantly than all these little semantics is you're now the guitar player for Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley. How crazy!
Man, that's just crazy. Even now, today, I mean, like the the gravity of that is not lost on me. I mean, like the the chances of that happening once are pretty fucking slim, but happening twice with like my two guys in Kiss, it just, yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Mhm.
Still, it's crazy.
You 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 go out with Ace and you're playing, and Ace is doing a lot of the weekend dates around the states. He's doing fly dates, and not always the easiest. And Ace's health, wasn't always the best. And I don't think Ace ever hid that. Ace Frehley lived hard, if anyone knows that. And there was times you could see he was tired.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, he had to be. I mean, like the thing is, Ace was 74, and he's like 4 years younger than my mom. So it's like my mom being out there. Like I can't imagine my mom out there. I mean, like it makes me tired. I'm sure it makes you tired too. Like traveling is tiring.
It's tiring. And as I said, Ace lived hard. And now to go out and do fly dates, especially, it's not like he has a bus to go lay down on. He's getting on planes. He's going across the country. He's playing one here, playing one there. And it's a lot. And like you said, it would be a lot on anyone. And I think that, Ace was having some difficulties at times. And this is when I first sort of became aware of you. We did a show somewhere in some city. And look, I loved Ace. I did a whole video on my channel when I was a kid, how I went to meet Ace. Fortunately, I had mostly good experiences meeting him that I'll cherish forever.
Was it that outdoor show in Pennsylvania?
It wasn't the outdoor one. I thought that one was good. You and I talked at that one. It was
all right, but he did have some problems at that show. I remember at that show he went behind the amps and he sat and like he'll do a shirt change and we'll play a little something, and then like we played our something and he still wasn't back out, and we just started making shit up. And man, I'm out of riffs.
Well, it was the show before that. That's the last time I would see Ace. But the show before that, you guys play the Detroit Rock City solo, and I'm standing on the side of the stage and I'm recording it, and I'm so excited. And for a few shows, Ace would play in the wrong key, I guess is the way you would say that. And it was tough. And I looked at your face and I see this sort of pain of what can I do? I mean, he's Ace, but and he was having trouble.
It is like that. It is like that. What can you do?
Yeah. I mean, I have the video. I never put it out because I love Ace. I didn't want to, embarrass him. But I remember thinking, and there was times when I would say, I think Ace might be done. And then I would see another show and I go, you know what? He's doing better. And then I met you at that Pennsylvania show and we talked before, and I sort of made a joke. I go, could tonight be the night he's going to play Detroit Rock City, right? And you go, well, find out. And I have the video of this, which I will put out. I came right up front, watched it, and he did it. He did play it correct that night, and the smile on your face and the sense of relief was there. That night, Ace said he had heat exhaustion, and he did stop the show slightly.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was outside. It was fucking hot.
Yes.
I remember it.
It was daytime, too. I mean, the sun was out.
Yeah. And like the sun is like aimed right at the stage. Yeah.
I remember saying, though, maybe Ace has still got more in the tank, because I thought that he sounded good. I thought he played good. I know he was having trouble and he was going back a lot, but I also thought that, he's an icon, and so I felt the cool factor. Ace's coolness can sometimes get you by, but I thought he was playing better, and that'll come out in a future episode too. But I think that in time, I thought that Ace, sort of was going to be okay. And I think we probably all did. Were you worried about Ace's health?
No, no. I talked to him the Thursday after his first fall, and no, he sounded fine. And
Yeah.
he was like, "Cool, all right, I'll see you next weekend." All right.
No one was expecting this. That's the one thing we should point out. And so the controversy and hype, years ago, someone passes away, you pick up the newspaper and it would say Ace Frehley has died. Now it's a little bit of a media thing, and there's a lot going on. So Ace was supposed to play a show in California with you, of course, and he falls at home, and he goes to a doctor. He was okay, but
Yes.
but there was so much confusion because a few days later he would fall again, right?
Yes, there was a second fall, and some stories leave that out, and some stories mention that. But yeah, there was a second fall, and that was the fatal fall.
Yeah, and so that's where the confusion, and everyone becomes a news person and an anchor, Monday morning quarter, but everyone's got an opinion.
No shit, man. Like, man, he was dead on the internet before he was actually dead. It was freaking me out a little bit.
Well, it also sort of became the worst kept secret because people were starting to know what was happening, and you knew about it, and your bandmates knew about it fairly early.
Well, yeah, kind of. We knew that there was a fall, and we knew that it was bad. But they went dark up there for the next couple of weeks, and we didn't know anything. We didn't know how he was progressing. We didn't know what was happening. So in a way that kept us from leaking any information, because nobody legit knew anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so like I went camping with my family, and I had no service at all. So like I'm coming out of the Smoky Mountains into Gatlinburg, and I had 1 bar 5G, and man, my phone practically fucking exploded in my hands. And then that's when everything was like unwinding, and I'm reading one thing in our group thread with Ace's team, and then I'm reading something else on the internet. It was crazy.
It's pretty insane. And then, TMZ said one thing, and by the time TMZ said what they said, if you look at the timeline, Ace had actually passed when TMZ said that he was in a coma. But there's just so much going on, and everyone's scrambling. And look, people love Ace, and they want to be involved, and they want to know. And people that were grieving,
Man, look, I knew when somebody from Kiss finally passed, it'd be a big deal. But man, the bigness of Ace, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was fantastic, and it was like he was getting a lot of the respect he always deserved, because like, past couple of years, all I read are people fucking beating up on him on the internet and shit. And like the respect part finally came out. And I mean, come on, he deserved it. I mean,
I agree,
dude.
Dude,
the guy in his prime was like as good as anybody. He could compose a fan-fucking-tastic guitar solo and come up with like great counter riffs. And I still don't get that a lot. Like when I listen to Kiss, and I'm like, start thinking about all those people that are like, Kiss sucks. I'm just like, well, I don't get it. What's so bad?
I don't get it either. But there's musicians who, I don't believe there's a wrong way to play music, but there are musicians who do. And if you don't play a certain amount of notes or you don't do a certain thing, I think breaking out of the norm is so much cooler and more original. And Ace did something that obviously you got it or you didn't. I didn't understand how people couldn't see how cool it was. I was glad he got that moment as well. And when you watch the Tom Snyder interview, it's all about Ace, and you can see Gene and Paul kind of go, "Oh, Ace is just."
Oh, especially Gene. In fact, like it's always been tough for me to watch it just because Gene makes me so uncomfortable.
Me too, because Ace just runs away with it, and he talks about things that Gene and Paul would never want to talk about. And I felt like sadly, when Ace passed, it was his moment again, and I've never seen anything like it on social media, and we've all been through.
I haven't either. And I mean, like, I kind of thought it was just, look, obviously I belong to a lot of KISS groups, and like KISS stuff infiltrates my news feeds because of, my association with KISS. But that even like family who don't necessarily follow KISS, like everybody knew about this. Like my son's friends' parents and people who just don't follow KISS know about this.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to attend the services?
I did.
Yeah. So you had to go to New York for that. Ace, like I said, as myself, born in the Bronx, buried in the Bronx as well, near his family. Got to be a tough thing.
I did not have any of that on my bingo card when I was 15. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about. It was so heavy and so surreal, and in a way, like kind of personal, that like I just don't know how to like talk about my experience at Ace's funeral service.
Well, and each person had their own. Gene and Paul and Peter were there as well, but
yeah,
each person has their own connection, and then has their own thought about where they stood. When's the last time I talked to Ace? Can you remember the last time you spoke to him?
I do. It was 12 hours before he took the fall. I called him after the first fall. Mm-hmm. I gave him a couple days because I just wanted him to, he had spent a couple days in the hospital, and I didn't want to bother him, while he was recovering from that first one. So I talked to him on the phone, and hey, okay, I'll see you next weekend. And then he sent me, this is heavy. And then he sent me a message and said, "Hey man, thanks for your call. It really lifted my spirits." And one of Ace's things is like a ton of emojis. So it followed like 6 or 7 emojis after that. And I'm so glad I did this. I texted him back and I said, "Of course, man, I love you."
Yeah.
And that was it. The last thing I ever said to Ace was, "I love you."
Those are the things that you keep with you. And when you're saying goodbye, you're glad you did that.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe Ace isn't here. And
I know, man. I really kind of just feel like we're on one of our long breaks or something. I don't know. It in a way, like that whole fucking experience was so surreal that now that I'm like a few weeks away from it, it seems like it was some sort of weird dream or something. And, we're going to do shows at the beginning of 2026 or something. I don't know. I guess it just hasn't been long enough yet for it to like really feel over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is your life. You're in it too. I mean, Ace passes, but you're the one who, you have these emotions. They say that death is for the living. And in most cases that is true, because you're the one who will live with what you went through in this experience, and it's happening fast. Next thing you know, you're in the Bronx saying goodbye to somebody who at one point was your hero, at another point stood next to you every night.
Just so weird. Yeah. That it would definitely be a hell of a conversation to have with 6-year-old me. Like, well, check this out.
One day you're going to be standing at Ace Frehley's gravesite with the other 3 members of KISS. I mean, crazy.
It is, dude. It really is. And when you say it out loud like that, it's just like, wow, that's just fucking wild.
This is more the motivation for people who want to become a musician. Ace's passing aside, you just never know where your life is going to go. You never know where your career is going to take you. I talk to people all the time who are depressed. I don't want to deal with life anymore. And everyone's been there. But there's things that will happen in your life that you just won't believe. And part of this ride, because your KISS ride and you're in that KISS family now, it's just crazy. Like you said, you could never have imagined any of this would happen.
I mean, look, not to sound arrogant, I always knew I would do something, but I always thought I'd be like in my own band or something. I never imagined playing in Gene Simmons' solo band because Gene's in KISS. He doesn't have a solo band. Or Ace's band. Like, Ace is a guitar player, and I play guitar, so I'm not going to be in his band. Like, so those weren't like two things that I really dreamed into action. But man, for it to wind up with those two guys is just a fucking crazy, incredible full circle thing. Like, especially for the people that knew me in kindergarten and first grade and second grade, when I'd show up with fucking KISS records, and then in third grade when I started showing up with circus and hit paraders and stuff. Like, well, of course that was going to happen to that guy.
Yeah. It's a testament to your work, though, also. And, you know, I sometimes when I'm looking for a musician for a band, I go, could I sit in a car with this guy for 5 hours? I usually think of that before I think about how good their playing is.
Yeah, man. Most people do, because, I mean, shit, we're all on stage for 75 to 90 minutes, and then there's a lot of time together.
If you're not humble or, a cool enough guy, you'll have a hard time making it, unless you're Yngwie and you do your own thing.
Yeah, or really adaptable is what you need to be. Like, every situation, there's going to be some shitty situations, and you don't want to be that guy who's just fucking complaining about a situation you can't change. It's just the way it is. I don't know, just you got to go with the flow.
I think
you don't want to.
Well said.
You don't want to be that guy like making the waves, because like, when you're not around, everybody's like, "Oh God, motherfucking Jesus Christ! Did you listen to that shit?" And I don't know who.
You don't want to be the guy,
or the last guy to the van. I'm not the last guy to the van.
Never. I have never. I can't tell you how many phone numbers I've lost from people who complained about their hotel room or any. It's just like,
man,
nope.
No. I'm pretty much a tour manager's dream. I don't complain, even when it's worth complaining about. Like, it's not going to solve anything. The tour manager doesn't want it to go bad. The tour manager didn't want a shitty. I don't know. Just things happen, and you have to adapt.
Yeah, I think that's well said. The big question, and it's the question that you get asked now all the time, is what's next?
Well, what do you got?
Yeah.
I don't know. In a way, it's like a little exciting, because like something has to come next. I don't really have any choice about that. I mean, like, what do I just shrivel up, die, turn into a pile of dust? No. I don't know. I feel really, really good about the future, though.
Sometimes the best options in life come when you didn't have a choice. Sometimes I've been fired from jobs. I probably would have stayed at that shitty job my whole life, but then you're gone. And you got to.
I don't really have to look for a new gig in secret. Like, I don't know, it's out there. I'm fucking available.
Mm-hmm.
So
have you called Peter Criss?
I have not called Peter Criss. He's probably not going to do a lot of shows anyway.
No, I don't think so.
Man, I want to play with somebody established that has a great catalog of songs, and the band is.
Hear me out, Vinnie Vincent.
No. Well, Vinny would advertise a show, but then cancel it before it came up. So
correct. All right, that one's not going to work for you. No, I get it. Look, people looking for a musician to hit up Jeremy's on social media, but you will be at the KISS event in Vegas, which is this week. By the time this airs, it'll probably have happened. I imagine you're going to be paying some tribute to Ace.
Yes. So the way the evening is unfolding, we are having a toast to Ace, And then we are going to do an Ace Frehley set, and it's all people that have been in Ace's band. It's Scott Coogan and me and Ryan, and we've got Zach Throne playing bass. And Zach played in Ace's band with us in 2022.
Yeah.
So you do have an Ace band doing it. We got a few guests jumping in with us. I think Todd Kern's going to do a song. Steve Brown, maybe a couple other people. And then after that, Ryan and Zach Throne and Joey Casada and myself are playing most of the live. We don't have enough time to do the full record, but we're doing most of it. And then the Handsome Devils, which is Todd Kearns and Luis. God, I'm probably going to mispronounce his last name, but Khalil. Gabriel Connor and Joey Casada are doing Creatures of the Night and Look It Up, select songs off of that. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, very cool. And a chance for people to see you and also pay respect to Ace. I got to say, and I'm just speaking for me, there's something kind of fun that Kiss is going to have to be in Ace's shadow this entire weekend.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
There's going to be more Ace t-shirts than any shirt there possible. And
pretty much just going to be an Ace memorial. I mean, I know they didn't necessarily want that, but I don't know. In a way, it kind of gives it a little more of a theme than just some rando Kiss event.
I feel like it helped ticket sales. That's just
probably
my feeling.
Our show's sold out, so
yeah, it shows the interest. I look forward to seeing you there. I'll be there with Piercy DiMartini. And
are you going to come out to our night?
I absolutely will. I live in Las Vegas, so
okay.
If you know somebody, I'll be there. If you can get me, in since it's sold out, I'll be there. Jeremy, people can check you out on social media. You're on Facebook. You're on Instagram.
Yep, everything's under my name. Nothing fancy or clever. Jeremy Asbrock. It's
good to have a last name that's not completely common. Then you can get your own emails and social medias.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing it. Again, as you said, this is all so new. So talking about it doesn't feel like it's a real situation.
Yeah, it is. I haven't really done a lot of interviews where I've had to address it yet. So it is like kind of fresh talking about it.
Yeah, well, we give our thoughts to Ace and Ace's family and fans, obviously. And you'll see more of Jeremy as time goes on. I thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you again.